Masters of Change Show, bringing you the most unique, brilliant, and inspiring entrepreneurs who will share their expertise to help you start and grow your business or inspire you to follow your passion and live your dreams. With your host, and a big smile, Bara Ali. Listen to the show 24/7 at www.mastersofchangeshow.com.
Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you, Owen, for giving me this great opportunity to have this wonderful conversation with you. I would like to first really want you to talk about Owen Greaves. Who is Owen Greaves, and what you do?
Well, first off, I'm a husband and a father. I have 2 sons. I'm married to only one woman, which apparently is legal. I'm a musician. I'm a singer. I'm a drummer. So that's who I am. That's the things that are the core of Owen Greaves.
Absolutely.
The part of Owen that is the work part, my hobby part, the fun, and the part where I want to help people. I'm a futurist. I look 3 to 5 years ahead. I try to see patterns and shifts and trends, and then try to bring that back into something that's applicable, something you can put into action that's actually going to help you either as a person or as a business owner. Mm-hmm. What I do is I observe what's changing. I pay attention.
Okay.
That's what I really do. I'm paying attention. Let me give you an example of paying attention.
Please.
If you came to me and said, "Oh, I want to start a business, but I don't know what to start," and the exercise that I tell everyone, and I don't care how old you are, I say, hop in your car, drive down Main Street.
Okay.
Go down Main Street and then come back again. And then go to a coffee shop, sit down with a pen and paper and write down and answer one question. What's missing?
Okay.
So what business is missing in your community? What service is missing in your community? So you're paying attention to your community. You're paying attention to your business community. What's missing? What isn't happening in the community that really there seems to be a need, but nobody's doing? See, if you're an entrepreneur, you don't really care what it is. You care that it makes money.
Absolutely.
Right? But if you're not an entrepreneur, and that means you just want to create a job. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm generalizing because a lot of people will fight me no matter what I say. But what's changing in business isn't the whole transaction. The transaction isn't changing. It's gone digital, but it's not changing. And it's actually kind of always been digital. We had cash registers that did the digital part and made the receipt for you back in the old day when you punched the numbers. And then you pulled the big arm down and it ding, and it gave you, here, you owe me this much after the taxes were calculated. So transaction's not changing. But what's changing is how consumers purchase, how consumers think.
Okay.
So how do consumers think? Well, they haven't changed in terms of personal human behavior. Mm-hmm. We all gravitate to what makes us feel good. We like being comfortable. We like our stuff exactly where it's going to be, so it's easy to find. We don't like to deviate from that path because we like comfort. Like we're creatures of comfort, and we're creatures of habit. So if we love change, we would never do the same thing twice. Again, I'm generalizing, but
yeah.
The definition of change means something's always changing, always, always, always. It doesn't repeat itself.
Right.
So what's changing? Well, people mostly, and it's younger generations. So when I grew up, you were told, go to school, get a good education, go get a job, work there for 40 years, retire, the government will look after you, everything will be just fine.
Okay.
You and I both know that's just a big fat lie.
Absolutely.
Doesn't work anymore today. And so today you have to be willing to work many different jobs. Mm-hmm. And you can't work one job for 40 years. You can go get a good education, but it may not mean anything unless you're being specific, focusing, or what they call doing a major, to go do a specific thing that you want to do for the rest of your life. Most of us don't know what that is.
But is it changing because society is needing us, or it's because the need in the consumer? Like, what is changing in the picture that is making that difference?
I think technology is driving us.
Okay.
And I think it's leading us to an unhealthy place. That's a loaded statement. But so what I'm saying is technology is making us do things differently, which means now we're going, what do we do? How do we do this? And then we get there and we start doing it. We go, I don't like this. I want it to be different. And then the change starts to get faster and it permeates more change you don't like. It's not what I call healthy change, where you take a 12-step program and go get straight. Like this is out of control, chaos, exponential change that people don't know how to deal with. It's like if you were to win the $50 million lotto max, and you've been broke your entire life, and all of a sudden you've got $50 million. That would be spiraling chaos. You wouldn't know what to do and how to handle the money.
Absolutely.
How to keep it, how to save it. Like, you'd just be a mess. And I said, that's what we're going through now with technology and the way people are trying to find new ways to do things, but they are hanging on to what makes them comfortable.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's an oxymoron.
So how would people, I mean, from seeing the trend, did social media enhances that? Did social media raise that expectation? What specifically, at what point had technology changed all of this? Is it before mobile or when I mean, we're talking about technology in a general term, but are we talking technology from a portable technology that allowed us to do this, or just technology in general?
Well, first off, social media to me didn't really change anything. Okay. All it did was take the telephone and make it digital. Nice. Like, and let me explain that a bit more, give us some more context here. When I was in elementary school, my parents always said, go out, play, go out, go out, go out, go out. And they didn't want us in the house. They made us go outside and play. And so a bunch of us would get together and we'd go stand under a streetlight and smoke the cigarettes and talk.
Okay.
That was our social network. Okay. So now that group, that conversation went only between the individuals that were there. Nobody else could participate because nobody else knew that conversation was taking place.
That's right.
So social media comes along, takes that group of people and that conversation and puts it online, takes that analog conversation, makes it digital, and now anybody can listen in and anybody can participate. So that's the part that changed.
I see.
It went exponential from the standpoint of you had more reach. But the actual social networking hasn't changed. We're still doing all the same things we did before there was the internet.
That's correct.
So I don't think social media has really done anything other than make us talk more.
Okay.
And it's also exposed us. Like it's showing us how should I say, we're not very ethical at times. We don't have integrity all the time. It's because you're always going to have, it's like for every equal good, there's an equal bad. So for every good person, you're going to have a bad person. You're going to have somebody trying to take advantage of somebody. And you get that. You get that when the internet came along. You get that when social media came along. So social media to me is like the telephone. So you got all these experts out there teaching you how to use the telephone. Because what happens when everybody knows how to use social media? What are they going to do next? What are these gurus and experts going to do next? And the only thing they can do is teach what they know. Right. They can't teach something they don't know. The real change hasn't really happened yet, Baral. It's coming now called the Internet of Things, where everything will be connected to everything. Now think about that for a second. Everything will be connected to everything. Your headphones, your shirt, your butt sitting on a chair. The chair is going to know who you are, what your body temperature is, whether you're healthy or not, what your heart rate is. Like everything is going to be connected to everything. You want to talk about change.
Wow.
That's where real change is going to start taking place.
Absolutely.
We're still trying to figure out how to do technology in an analog mindset.
Correct. So where do you, I mean, from your expertise, talking about the Internet of Things, when do you see that taking place in terms of small items be connected? I mean, I know that nowadays you have many things that connected to the internet. I mean, now the basic app, like your computer is connected, your microphone is connected, your temperature is connected, your heater is connected. All of this, you can run them from the house, you can run them from the car. Before you come in, it recognizes. But when do you anticipate the rest of the things would be connected?
Well, probably when I'm dead and gone. But I think it's going to happen a lot faster than people think. And I think the Internet of Things is also is about automation.
Mm-hmm.
There is going to be a complete meltdown. Bill Gates said, he says, he is more afraid of how people are going to respond to the $1 billion jobs that are lost due to automation. 1 billion jobs. And there's probably going to be mostly in the Western countries, North America, because that's where the money is, that's where the expertise is, that's where the technology hub is.
Absolutely.
So we're expanding faster and faster that way in North America than we are anywhere else. So we're willing to do all the beta testing of automation. So you've got that component of jobs being lost because not real artificial intelligence, but because computers and technology are able to do the job of a human, hence a driverless car. See, already, like I bought a brand new car last fall. It's got 1 million sensors in it.
Mm-hmm.
The Internet of Things sensors. And all they do is they just hook the computer up to the car, and the car tells them everything it wants to know.
Right.
The computer wants to know, right? So he says, yeah, your car's okay, it's not okay. So it's already happening.
Correct.
But the thing is, it's not in our face. It's not urgent, not making us pay attention. It's in things that we just take for granted.
Owen, you're famous for the open and free business model. What is the open and free business model is all about?
Well, the title is very misleading. It's one of the challenges. That title is really not a really good way of stating something that I say in my workshops, because from a marketing perspective, the open and free business model is a bad idea. You wouldn't use that term somewhere else. But the open and free business model wasn't about being open to the point of being vulnerable. And it wasn't about everything is free. What it was meant to be is the term is actually called transparency. So if you could find a way to do business in a transparent way, you were going to be able to build trust a lot easier and faster.
Right.
Hence the open and free business model. So I say open. What does that mean? Well, using open platforms, i.e. the internet, could be a social network, could be anything. And some of those are all free, but free from the business perspective was to say, once you know what your core business is all about, figure out what you can give away free in order to get something else. See, everything we do and everything is designed in business for me to get your money out of your wallet, or you to get my money out of my wallet. Like everything is designed to get your money. Everything. There is, it's just the way of the world. So then I'm going to say, okay, if you want to maximize or leverage free, then you have to give away something that's useful. People can actually put into practice, that is interesting, might even be entertaining. Doesn't necessarily have to be, but all those components help. So you give that away for the purposes of getting something else in return. Maybe all I want is your email address so that I can stay in touch with you, or you want to hear more from me on my work, what I'm doing. And then that becomes an opportunity for me to sell you something later.
Right.
So I gave you something for free in order to sell you something later. It's not a guaranteed sale. It's just a sales funnel tool, right? And the open aspect of things was to open up your mind to change the way you think. The open aspect of things of using open tools, things that are actually open source, open and free to use. Like the open and free is so entwined into everything. But again, for me, I want to change the way you think about how business is really being done.
Right.
Not how you know it to be done or how you want it to be done. Because how we want is about us. It's not about the customer.
Absolutely. So Owen, where did the idea? I mean, such a powerful idea. Where did it come from?
Well, there was a gentleman by the name of Gerd Leonhardt. I stumbled across him many years ago. See, I thought I was the only one talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, doesn't anybody else see this or get it? And then I met Gerd Leonhardt online, and this guy's already famous. He's already doing my thing, and he's doing it at such a high level. I was like, wow. So I touched base with him, and he got me connected with a bunch of other futurists. And next thing you know, I'm communicating with 250 different futurists around the world, and I'm collaborating with these guys. And I'm going, well, I'm seeing this over here in my part of the world. Are you seeing that over there in Germany or Switzerland or wherever? But Gerd, he is really got it down. Like he sees stuff clearer than I see it. Mm-hmm. I see it, but I'm not really good at articulating it. He's better at articulating it. I spoke at the World Futurist Society Conference in Vancouver back in 2011 on the open and free business model. I had to speak for an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, that was easy. I've got radio in my background. I can talk forever. It's what I do. And there was apparently 1,100 people coming, but there was another gentleman who came, and his name was Glenn Feenstra. He wrote a book called Turning Your Future into Revenue. Glenn Heemstra is his name. Heemstra. It's an H on his last name. And he lives in Seattle. And he came up and saw my talk. And he said to me, he said, because he's partnered up with Gerd Leonhardt. And he says, man, he says, you really got something here. He says, not only are you doing what Gerd's doing, you're telling people how to do it. Mm-hmm. You're teaching them how to do this thing. He says, you're going to make a lot of money doing that. And I said, I'm not doing it to make money. I'm doing it to help people get their head straight, to help them see something, and then they help them work on how they can make it happen.
Absolutely.
For them. It wasn't about me making the money, because I have this attitude of if you help enough people get what they want, you'll be okay.
So and powerful, so true.
My motto is, how many people are better off because you lived?
So let's walk through it so people can really imagine the picture in doing open and free business model. Let's take an example of a restaurant, because that's a kind of business a lot of people understand. It's one of those businesses that is hard to take online, and it's very, very good at staying offline. So yeah. How would a person, an owner of a restaurant, would be able to leverage such a thing?
Well, for restaurants, to me, it would be easy, but the restaurant owner has to deal with one thing that's really, really hard.
Okay.
That is, food costs are always either 50% or higher.
Okay.
And then they also have these other issues, these other nerve endings called alcohol, which that's where a lot of shrinkage comes from.
Okay.
So their overheads are dictated by how their staff, is the staff ethical? Are they really good with food waste? Are they really good with their alcohol and stuff like that? So they have this thing, and then you've got to have staff that you got to pay. So all your costs are buried into the chair. So, for example, there was a restaurant that was here in our community that went into business. They had a really good concept, really good food, and they were awesome. And 2 years later, they were gone. Mm-hmm. And it's very typical. Well, it was 3 years, but 2 years is the mark where a restaurant typically plateaus.
Okay.
Because at first, they're new, they're a novelty, and their food's awesome.
Correct.
And the prices start to climb a little bit because they're trying to keep that balance between their costs and making an actual dollar per chair. So let's take rent, for example. Let's say you've got 120 chairs and you rented $6,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're just talking about rent.
Rent to a chair ratio. Yeah.
So that chair, that's 120 chairs, you divide that into your rent. Right. I'm doing simple math here, absolutely. Right? So now you're talking $74 a chair, yeah, give or take. Like, that's just to pay the rent.
Right.
So right now you already know you're in trouble because your rent is too expensive. in order for you to price your product accordingly. You haven't hired staff, you haven't bought food, you haven't got supplies, you got nothing. You're just trying to cover rent. So most restaurant people or restaurant owners, at least the ones that I've met in my life, they always go in undercapitalized. So they say they got $100,000, which goes absolutely nowhere fast, because that you'll eat that up in your first month just trying to get started. So you've got that problem. So you go to bed at night and all you're worried about is, can I pay the hydro bill? Can I pay my staff? Can I get, blah, blah, blah. You haven't talked about taking risks in your business and how do I get the community to find out about me and how do I get them in here? So I'll give you a hypothetical scenario.
Okay.
You have a restaurant across the street from two big skyscrapers, and it's retirement home type place where people live in condos. The restaurant decides they want to market to those people. So what they do is they hire a guy like me. So they come and they say, what could we do to get those people? And I said, easy. Do up a coupon, go to one tower only, go to every suite and give them a free meal for two in your restaurant. And the first thing they say is, oh, we could never do that. Now think about doing that. So let's say there's, 100 suites in a tower or 200. I don't care. It doesn't matter what the number is.
Right.
So, and let's say it's $20 a plate. Could be 25. Doesn't matter.
Regardless of the number.
But the cost of the food for the restaurant owner isn't the retail price. It's the wholesale price.
That's right.
So it might cost them, $2,000-$3,000 to feed 200 people.
Right.
And I'm using really bad numbers there.
Yeah, but
so
to give the picture.
Saying, I can't afford $3,000, but yet they will turn around and take a full page ad out in the paper for one day for $1,500. So what I'm saying is it's not so much the model, it's how you look at business and how it should be done.
Right.
And you got to stop thinking in old analog ways of doing things and say, if I give a meal away for free to 200 people, can you imagine how many people they're going to tell?
That's right.
And if your meal sucks, it sucks. Yeah. They're not going to tell anybody. Absolutely. Well, they're going to tell 12 people each, right? But if it's good, guess what's going to happen? The people in the other tower are going to find out about it, and they're coming over for supper.
Correct.
And all of a sudden, you've got something. So that's using free in order to sell something later.
Right.
It's just a matter of being willing, being open-minded enough, being risk taker enough to say, because if you're an entrepreneur, you'd be willing to do that.
Yeah.
If you just built yourself a job, you're not.
Correct. Now, how do you see people? What are the steps? What do people need to do in order to start executing or using the model in their businesses?
Well, the first thing I teach is the first question I ask. I go, what is your core business about?
Okay.
What is it that your business does? Like, so if you're a restaurant, you serve up a meal. It doesn't matter who you are. It could be McDonald's. What does McDonald's do better than anybody else? They make a hamburger better than anybody else.
Correct.
So what does your restaurant do? What's your number one thing that you're going to be known for in that restaurant? I don't care if it's French fries. I don't care what it is. But whatever that thing is, that's the thing you're going to be better at than anybody else. Like, that's the thing.
Right.
And then you try to identify that. But the hard part is figuring that out. So I say, start writing it down. Right now, go 1, 2, 3, 4, what you think your core business is about.
Okay.
So, and then what happens is when you start writing, and I tell everybody to just start writing, because stuff comes out of your writing. You don't even see it. It just sort of, there it is.
That's right. So powerful.
Yeah. So you need to narrow the focus, figure out exactly what the core of the business is. And you need to ask yourself that about 3 to 4 times, and maybe more if you have to. And then try to figure out, get it down to a simple statement that everyone can understand, right? So, because you want to be able to deliver that pitch, that elevator pitch, in a very clear, concise way that the masses can understand. You want it to be really simple and easy, and as few words as possible. for example, I'll use a church, for example. One church has their mission statement, I guess, for lack of a better term, is building relationships that put God first. So that's a huge statement right there. But how they actually do that, in terms of that might be their vision, but how they actually
deliver
the
it.
mission, right? How they execute, that's a whole different ballgame.
Correct.
And we get those two mixed up all the time. We think vision and mission are always the same. They're actually two different statements.
Okay. Can you explain more?
So if I use, I'm a technology consultant as an example.
Okay.
And I haven't told you anything about me just by saying that I'm a consultant. I'm a computer technology consultant. So all you have in terms of context is what you know about computer technology consultants. Might be nothing, but you know computers involved and you know technology, and they're kind of one and the same. But I really haven't told you what I do. I really haven't helped you explain, here's what I do that could solve a problem for you. So again, going back to what the core of your business is, you need to be able to explain to people how what you do will solve a problem or get them what they need, or you could be just a great guy that knows how to connect them to somebody who's got connections to what they're looking for.
Right.
You could be a connector. So the first step is writing down and as simple a focus as you can, what your core business is about. But then once you've got something there, you can start to extrapolate that out. You can now start talking about vision. Said, okay, here's what my business is about. Now, what is it about this core business that the world needs? Like, how far out am I going with this thing? Like, let's say you wanted to put little TVs on the back of seats in cabs. There was a young fella in town here that wanted to do that. And I said to him, I said, that's a really nice idea. It's a great idea. And it's already been done. But I said, you're not thinking big enough. The problem with most people's visions is too small.
Mm-hmm.
It's too small. It's small because that's where they're comfortable.
Right.
We're going back to human behavior again.
Correct.
So your vision needs to be big enough to scare you. The what if I was to do this and it got this big, how would the world change? How would I help the world change? Would I be helping people or would I be hurting them? Like, it goes back to all the moral compass things. So that's why I say, how many people are better off because you lived? Does your vision help enough people?
Mm-hmm.
Does it provide food? Does it provide a service? How does it help somebody? So your vision now has to be a useful thing. Your core business has to be useful. It has to solve a problem most of the time. Now, the other side of it is the whole entertainment thing, the gaming world and stuff like that. That's a whole different thing.
Right.
It's not solving a problem, it's creating an escape, right?
That's so true.
So then your vision has to happen. You've got to figure out, how big is this thing? Is it bigger than me? It should be. It should be bigger than you alone. And how does it make the world a better place?
Right.
And of course, vision in the workshop, I give you a document. It's 7 steps. What's called the 7 elements of a clear vision, which I got from a friend of mine whom I met online. I was actually asked to review his book.
Wow.
So he sent me a copy of the book, and it's "Does Lead Seller Get Out of the Way?" It's a sales book. But he has a part in his book, and I asked permission to put it in my workbook in the workshop, of how to create a clear vision. And there's 7 steps in that, and the 7 elements. And just really quickly, start with a blank piece of paper, and then you start to write. Construct your vision and what you think is possible based on your past experiences. And then, apply the think tank method. This is a group brainstorming thing. It's a great way to create vision that is not biased by past experiences.
So how do you do that? Like, how do you create do you see it interfere with some people?
Yeah, because we always start and go back to where we're most safe, where we feel safe, most comfortable. So if I'm asking you to build a vision that makes you feel uncomfortable, right away you're going, well, I don't know what I could, I don't know. Like suddenly your brain turns off. You know, suddenly it's like, I can't think. What do you mean bigger than me? What does that mean? Well, it sounds like a simple statement, but for people to actually walk through the actual exercise of figuring it out, it's hard.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
So
and then you got to try and make it specific.
That's super hard. When people say be specific, I mean, I guess for us entrepreneurs, because we talk in so general term, we look at always the 30,000 feet. We never go down and try to explain what is the question behind the question and what are we trying to accomplish until somebody guide us through more questions. Then we go down. But it's I think default mode, we don't go down. We're always up there.
Well, you get stuck either down or you get stuck up high.
Mm-hmm.
I get stuck up high all the time. I fly at 50,000 feet.
Wow.
Right. So, but increasing sales this year is not a vision. It's just a tactic thing. Like you're just saying, like, it's a goal. I'm going to try and achieve this 10% growth. That's not a vision. But people might think that's a vision.
Correct.
Well, I see us doing this 10% increase. Well, okay. But who does that help? That helps you and only you.
All right. But the vision is more bigger than you can imagine.
It's everything.
Yeah.
You know, if you were to look at the major companies that have strong vision, if you look at Apple and what they do and how everything is so hip and cool, and you know, they figured out how to get your nerve endings. They know, hey, if I have this, I'm in the inside.
Absolutely. So now, what do you would recommend, or what would you advise people who get stuck either down or up? What do you tell them to really have a middle ground?
Well, typically people are one or the other. The visionary people, there's actually very few of them. There are people who have great ideas, have absolutely no way of communicating it back to the people that have to do the work. That's probably a normal situation. Treat it like a funnel. You've got two funnels. They're both going open ends, one on each end. You've got your visionary person over here, and then you've got the team back here. And he says, oh, I see this over here. I want that. But then it goes back to this narrow thing, and the story gets changed, gets garbled. And then back here, the people are saying, well, we can't do that. We don't have the technology. We don't know how to build that. And he's saying, I want to do this thing down here in 15 years or 10 years. And he communicates that back to his people, and the people don't have the wherewithal. They can't see what he's seeing because he's bad at articulating back.
Right.
Or he's bad at sending good instructions. So the visionary person that is strictly visionary, who only sees and has learned how to see, but hasn't figured out how to get that back to the actual people that have to build it, that have to work. There's that person who's stuck way too high and doesn't know how to communicate back to the people that are down on the ground building. Then you've got the people that believe they're visionary and they're down below with the workers, but they haven't learned how to see. They don't really see what's coming 10 and 15 years down the road. Mm-hmm. They only see what they understand. Because the real visionary extrapolates how he goes, okay, I've got this mouse, but what if we don't need a mouse? What if all we have to do is just look on a screen with our eyes and it'll just go where I want it to go? And to click, I just blink. And if I want to right click, I blink twice. Right? So now I'm going, well, geez, why hasn't anybody built that yet? Well, it's probably not very practical. And people would probably, who have nervous energy, blink a lot. So the mouse would just be going click, 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 click.
So right. It's so true. Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. So it has to be practical too.
That's right. Yeah, you don't have too big a vision that is not realistic to a level.
And then, when people, they get a vision and they actually have a core idea of what they want to do, they get a vision, but they forget to do the exercise of figuring out what the SWOT analysis is. So what's a SWOT analysis? Well, that's your S stands for strengths, W stands for weaknesses, O for opportunities, and T for threats. So then you have to figure out, you have to work through all of that. You got to flesh it out. Well, I said, okay, well, what are the strengths of my idea and my vision? Like how strong is this? Is it viable? Is it going to have legs? Is it going to last for a long time, or is it short term? Blah, blah, blah. Then what are the weaknesses? How quick could this be? Could somebody come along and do what I'm doing better? Or buy me out or whatever, that's also a threat, by the way. So, and then opportunities, what are the opportunities that my idea might create or spin off because I made this thing? There might be a spin-off idea that's better than my original core business idea. So you can see there's tons and tons and tons of questions.
Right. So
the whole idea is to get you to focus. Start with something, get going, and start. And when you do your SWOT analysis, what's really cool is to get a mastermind, a group of people together, like 5 or 6 people, and ask them to walk. You explain your idea as best you can, explain your vision as best you can, and then say, okay, I want you to tell me what the SWOT analysis might look like on this. What are my strengths? What do you see as the strengths? What do you see as the weaknesses? What are the opportunities that we can have from this thing? And then what are the threats? Is this thing going to break us financially?
Right.
Is somebody else going to come along and buy us out? It just goes on and on and on.
And so true that you need a group of people, especially for this kind of exercise, because as an entrepreneur, we only see the vision from one perspective, and we always see the opportunity. We never look at the threat, neither the weakness. We always say, wow, this is a great opportunity. I am the only one. I can do it better than anyone. And we ignore the other pieces.
Well, there's a really interesting thing about entrepreneurs and business owners. They're different.
Okay.
The entrepreneur is willing to hand it off. You figure it out.
Right.
The business owner is scared to death to look stupid. He's scared to death that if I hand it off, it won't get done right. Because you, Mr. Consultant, couldn't possibly understand my business as well as I do.
Correct.
And you couldn't be more wrong if you've ever said that to me.
So powerful, so powerful. I never looked at it this way. A business owner is a person who's stuck. They want to do it themselves all the time, versus entrepreneurs say, I know I'm not good at this. Let me give it to somebody who's going to do it better and hand it off.
Entrepreneurs hand it off to their team, and he says, make it happen.
Wow.
Now, if he's done a good job of hiring his CEO and his upper team, the making it happen, he hands it off to them and they go and do it. He's the CEO or the visionary guy, and he's probably the money guy too.
Right.
Or he's gone and got money, one of the two, for his idea. But there's no way he's going to go get money without flushing through his idea.
That's correct.
Doing a SWOT analysis and making sure it's going to make money. Learn to trust people.
Absolutely.
Expect great things from them, and they'll deliver great things. Yeah. The ones that don't will flush themselves out because they won't be able to keep up.
Owen, from your perspective, what is the difference, really the big difference, the major differences between doing business offline versus doing it online?
Well, offline, it's pretty straightforward. You only have 24 hours in a day. I have the same 24 hours. Where I can only do work so many hours in a day. I can't work 24. I have to sleep somewhere along there. The internet allows you to be in business 24 hours a day. You can be working all the time. I do all the time. I own a web hosting company. It's open 24 hours, 7 days a week, and it makes money when I sleep.
Wow.
Okay. So, and I'm not saying that because I'm smarter or better than anybody else. I built that when I started preaching this open and free business model back in 2007. So I set that up because I was frustrated with web hosting companies, especially the big ones, because that's what I was dealing with. So I started my own. I built my own. And then I said, it became like a passive income thing. So it creates money. It pays for itself. It's profitable. I don't have to invest any of my money at all into it. I haven't since the day I opened it. So I just figure, okay, that's the difference. You've got the digital, the internet. It works for you when you're not, because you can only do physical analog stuff. Digital can do everything for you if you've got the systems set up and they're fully automated. It will do the work that you never have to do. It does the selling, it does everything. Like it's just there. It's a huge difference. But it still goes back to who your customer is, who are you trying to reach, who are you talking to. If your customer isn't on the internet or isn't on Twitter or isn't on Facebook, why would you go and invest a lot of time and money there if that's where they aren't? You go where your customers are. Mm-hmm. So if you've done your market research, you would have figured that out. You got to figure out where your customers are. Who's your ideal customer? And you should flesh that out. What does my ideal customer look like? Well, who they're, middle income, whatever, or maybe they're upper income. So now you're talking to a different group of people. So, and where do those people spend their free time? Do they have free time? What are their activities off when they're not working? Where do they go? So that answers the question of should you or shouldn't you? And so to me, it's not about the tool. It's not about the internet. It's about who's your customer, who are you trying to reach? And if you know they're on Facebook, then go spend some time on Facebook and figure out how to communicate with them, figure out how to get that engagement so that they're coming back at you and talking and going, yeah, your idea is really great. I'd like to learn more about it, blah, 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 blah. So then you might have something. Mm-hmm. See, when I first got on social media, what I call social media, I was on Twitter. I only was on Twitter, and that was it. And I was talking to myself. I was so lonely in this town. There was nobody on Twitter, and there were people that had accounts but weren't talking, which is another big problem. So I just started reaching out to people, not just online but offline. I say, hey, you ever want to talk to me? I'm available on Twitter. Here's my handle. If you don't have a Twitter account, here's how you go get one. And I started to evangelize Twitter. Before you know it, I had a few hundred followers, and I went from 6 followers to 1,000 followers in 10 days.
Wow.
But I was doing more than just the internet. I was out talking to people. I was holding what we call tweet ups. I was going to say, hey, I'm going for coffee at Beans and Leaves at 3:00. Please come, I'll buy you coffee. And so if anybody was paying attention online,
they would come and get a free coffee.
They would just come and get a free coffee. And it's amazing how many people took me up on that. But the same thing on Facebook. It's the same thing on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn was a different beast. LinkedIn, I still haven't leveraged to a maximum of where I get good value out of it. It's become a very difficult place in terms of spam, and it's changed a lot. Twitter's now just become a noise channel. It's like radio. It's just talk all the time.
Right.
Not actually having a conversation anymore.
It's
Facebook. I have some conversations, but the conversation seems to be falling by the wayside these days. It's all about push my stuff in your face.
And we are in each one of those, and it's so powerful and it's so true that people are just talking without listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. But doing a podcast or doing a show, whether it be on YouTube or whatever the case may be, there's way more value in this because it's more focused. And correct. People are going to say, hey, I'm interested in what they're saying.
So that's what you would be. So if people want to know more about what you offer, the workshop schedule, if the webinars are available, where they can find information about you?
Well, there's 2 places. One, if there is a workshop, you can go to the openandfreebusinessmodel.com.
Okay. I will have the website link in the show note.
Right now, there are no workshops scheduled, so you'll just get a hi, come back and visit me again.
Absolutely.
Or you go to owengreaves.com, which is my regular blog, which is where I live and where I put out a ton of free content. And I give you, it's a real mix mash. I talk about things that I see, things that I experience, things that bother me. That's all kinds of things there. But there is a the workbook that you get from me is on my blog. It's just not you have to go and put it all together. You got to figure it out.
I see.
But my blog is basically everything that I teach. It's just not organized in a book form.
I see. So it will be very valuable for everybody to go to your website, learn about you, read about your content. Everything you talk about is there. Just matter for them to really put these how do you call it? The step by step together based on the knowledge.
Yes, the action steps.
The action steps. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Owen, once again, for taking the time to be here and to share your message with the audience. I am very confident that everybody will be very, very happy and very pleased to hear your message and help them maybe shorten the steps that they would need to take, maybe make less mistakes by hearing your message and learning from you. Once again, thank you so much for joining in. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, and good luck to you on this podcast.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining in. It was a pleasure talking to Owen Greaves. He's a futurist, and he's a preacher for the open and free business model. We will have the information down, and until next time, have a lovely day, and we will talk soon. This is Bara Ali, your host. Bye-bye.
Masters of Change Show, bringing you real entrepreneurs, real experiences, and real advice, with big inspiration and a whole lot of soul. Whether you're looking to start or grow your business, hack life, or learn personal growth strategies, we are confident you'll hear game-changing ideas and perspectives here. Ready to learn? Always with a big smile, with your host, Bara Ali. Listen to the show 24/7 at www.mastersofchangeshow.com.